Hello and welcome to the Justice Factor, coming to you live from our studios in Hyde Park, Johannesburg. The ANC Youth League this week took human waste in buckets and dumped them on the steps of the Western Cape legislature in a protest against portable toilets. Is this what our politics have come to now? Dumping poo on our legislatures? The man responsible for this, former ANC councillor and band league member Andy Lelili, joins me today to discuss this. After that discussion, we'll name and shame our loser of the week. We have two losers for you today. But first, we look at the week's top stories, and for that, I'm joined by independent political analyst David Monyae and associate editor of the Mail and Guardian, Phillip. Gentlemen, so much to talk about. Thanks for coming through. I mean, there's the matter of the, how does one say it, poo in Cape Town. There's the DAMTN adverts. There's all sorts of things. But let's start with our strike this week by Jill Marcus in a speech saying that economic problems are reaching crisis proportions and that we need decisive leadership to deal with this. Is this getting through to government that there is an economic problem, a big one, in South Africa now? David?
Indeed. I think this has to do with the market. The market is not that certain itself since 2008. And therefore, I think it's high time to look at South Africa's economy and look at the key drivers. And in this instance, South Africa is known as a major mining country, and therefore with instabilities that are taking place within the mining sector, I think it's high time that the president, and I think he has done something quite good, sending someone senior, the deputy president, to stabilize. But I think it's not just a question of deploying the deputy president. I think it's to go deeper and look at some of the structural problems, which has to do with the history. And since 1994, one must say, much hasn't been done in terms of dealing with those structural problems that basically deal with.
Can I just, both of you in Mangaung in December when the ANC said we are adopting the NDP, we're going to ramp up implementation of structural reforms and so forth via the NDP, we'll deal with unemployment. Is the market saying we don't believe the NDP is going to resolve these problems, or is the market saying, actually your trade union allies don't believe in this, so it's not going to be implemented?
The market is saying the ANC cannot control trade unions or workers. The market is saying that the ANC is not in control of the country, basically, which is not an unfair statement, really, if you consider what has been going on in the mining sector. What the market said to us very clearly indeed is that we're seeing what's going on in Marikana. We're looking at the consequences and the potential for contagion, and we don't think that you guys are in control of this. Which is why it's such a good thing that Jill Marcus came out and became the person who owned the problem, because what foreign currency traders, for instance, have not seen is a government which realizes just how deeply we are in trouble,
but
the consequences that we face.
Is the political class owning the problem? Is President Zuma owning the problem, David?
I think much is being done, but I don't think if the message is getting to all sectors, all segments of the economy and the country as well. And when we talk about leadership, I think at this juncture, we have to understand one thing, that we have to come together as a country and understand that this problem is not a President Jacob Zuma alone problem. It's everyone's problem because it's hitting our pockets, whether from a middle class perspective or the unemployed and the crisis that comes with it. And therefore, I think there is a need, particularly within trade union, to ensure that while the market is sending message, the government has to strike a balance of what markets demands, as well as certain interventions which should be catalytic in terms of resolving this problem speedily.
Phillip, who should come to the party then? If we take President Zuma out of the equation, who should be coming to the party? The trade unions?
Well, it's a bit late now, perhaps, but yes, that would be a good start, perhaps, for the trade unions. and that being the old and the new. The elephant in the room here, of course, is UMCU. If you're a foreign investor, if you're a foreign trader, if you're someone who's doing business with South Africa's mining sector, you don't understand UMCU. Hell, we don't understand UMCU in South Africa. We don't understand where it's coming from and where it's going to. We may have seen that kind of very militant trade union politics in our past, but we're not used to it anymore. So, you know, what they need to see is leadership from UMCU standing up and saying, we will protect jobs.
Both of you are not talking about one thing here, and it's what Cyril Ramaphosa mentions in the Sunday Independent today. He says business is always whinging
Cyril
and not bringing something.
Cyril who?
Cyril Ramaphosa.
Really? He's still around? When was the last time you heard from Cyril Ramaphosa?
Cyril Ramaphosa is the deputy president of the ANC.
Is he really? Because in January you saw him all over the place. He's the business-friendly guy. Where's Cyril Ramaphosa?
Is business coming to the party here, both of you?
I think here, when you look at it from a distance, no one is really innocent here. I think all parties have something to say and something to contribute in terms of balancing. I think one thing that we must always remember is that democracies generally are noisy. And here you can't bash on the trade union, but at the same time that you have to have a measured way of intervening to ensure that you achieve the strategic objective, which is one, to improve the lives of the people. But as it stands, it appears that business is there for profit and government is there for just stability. There is a need for business and government to come together to ensure that this problem does not continuously affect the markets as well as the people on the ground.
Let's move on to a story that plays everyone. I'm interested in how we discuss Nelson Mandela in this country. You put him on the front page as the Sunday Times does. It's time to let him go. Oh, okay. And then the City Press puts him on the side, sort of pray for Madiba. Sunday Independent Nation prays for Tata Madiba. Are we uncomfortable with death here? And the fact that President Mandela is very old and may leave us soon. Phillip?
We're uncomfortable with the fact that we have to talk about him and we can't really. You know, this is a man who himself said, please don't deify me. And that's exactly what we went out and did as a country and as the world. This is a man who said, please show me warts and all. And as a media, we're simply not capable of doing that, partially because of the way our readers see him, partially about, you know, just our own feelings towards the man. This is a man where I was outside his house yesterday, being one of the vultures peering over the wall, you know, trying to see what goes on. But then we try and cover it in a more gentlemanly fashion. We try not to seem like vultures. All of us try to justify, well, you know, we're just very interested in his health. We're hanging on the details of his illness, much like we hang on the Oscar Pistorius court case. There's no public interest in it. There's no real value in it, you know, but we can't stop looking.
David,
it's a very
difficult get a chance to talk about this?
I think from a cultural perspective, I think it's very hard as Africans to talk about someone who's living. However, the reality is that he's a global figure. He's a man that whose norms and values are somehow enshrined in our constitution. And I think the biggest thing we can do, not just for him, but for the country and everyone else, is to have to understand some of the challenges and some of the issues, for the lack of a better term, issues that are not completed in terms of the liberation of people, especially delivery, education, children violence against children and women. So those are key issues that the nation should ask itself, and the world also, to give space that as much as he is a global figure, he is also a family man. And therefore we have to have those boundaries where we talk about him but also give space.
Yes. David Monyae, there's a lot to digest, and I think we should have another conversation about this when Nelson Mandela is not in hospital. Phillip, David, both of you, thanks so much for your time. It's been fantastic. Coming up, why is the ANC dumping poo on the Democratic Alliance? Stay with us.